These are the forgotten men and women of our country. I am your voice.
Donald Trump pushing the central theme of his campaign as he accepted the GOP nomination Thursday night in Cleveland, and we're back now with the panel. So, Brit, asked you about the Clinton campaign. Where is the Trump campaign at the end of its convention and the beginning of this one? Did they unify the Republican base, and were they at all successful in reaching out to undecided voters?
Well, I think that the party is about as unified as it's ever going to get with Donald Trump as its nominee. And as for outreach to undecided voters and those who may now not be prepared to vote for Trump, I have my doubts. But I think the message that I am your voice is the right message. I thought his speech was basically all that we've been hearing him say for all these months now, except louder. And that may play well. You know, if I can use a somewhat imperfect nightclub analogy, he was not trying to be the friendly greeter. He was trying to be the bouncer. And it just may turn out that a bouncer is exactly what a lot of people want. But I think that's kind of how he came across.
We asked you for questions for the panel, and we got this on Facebook from Patty Mertz Keenan. I'll guess that's what her last name is. With the pummeling that Hillary Clinton received this week by the speakers at the RNC convention, how does the RNC and Trump campaign plan to deal with the artillery that will surely be hurled by the Clinton campaign at the DNC convention this week? Amy, how do you answer Patty? Because you know that Clinton and Bill Clinton and Barack Obama, they will try to rip Trump's skin off this week.
That's right. But I do think they're going to spend much more time trying to build up their candidate than trying to focus almost exclusively on Trump. I mean, part of the challenge at the RNC was that the one unifying factor, because there still is some disunity among Republicans, was Hillary Clinton. That was an easy way to rally the troops, is in opposition to her.
But I mean, I'm just in for a second.
Yeah.
I mean, Clinton has been engaged
100%.
in character assassination of Trump.
Absolutely, and that's not going to stop.
Okay.
But I think you're going to see a convention. This is at least what I'm hearing, is this one is going to be much more focused on, while taking out Trump, focusing on a much brighter, sunnier, kind of optimistic message, and one that also talks a lot more about Hillary Clinton while also taking on Donald Trump.
And how do they deal directly with the issue, her big weakness, honesty and trustworthiness?
That's right. I don't know that you're ever going to be able to deal with that. In fact, I think the reality for so many voters is, come November, that's not going to go away. She can't fix that. I don't think people are suddenly going to find her more trustworthy. The question is whether they find her good enough to be president or better choice in terms of doing the job of president. They see her as more experienced. Do they want that kind of president over Donald Trump?
George, you are, to put it gently, not a Trump enthusiast. Two questions. First of all, did you watch the Republican convention?
I did.
And secondly, what did you think of it?
I watched between innings. The defining characteristic of the speaker, the nominee himself, and of the convention itself with the lock her up chants was anger. I don't think the American people have elected an angry president, someone defined by anger, someone whose visage said anger, since Andrew Jackson. And that was 100 years before the invention of television, which brings presidents into our living room more than anyone other than family members. And I'm not sure the American people want anger in their living room. When Mrs. Clinton said, Kane is everything that Trump Pence aren't, he could have said he's cheerful, he's a happy warrior. That's a phrase applied first to a Democratic nominee, Al Smith, and later to another Democratic nominee, Hubert Humphrey. So the question is, talking about Amy, about how do they deal with this problem with the perception of Mrs. Clinton? I think they're going to fall back on Joe Biden's wonderful axiom, don't compare me to the almighty, compare me to the alternative. And they're going to say the alternative is Donald Trump, and do you want an angry man in your living room?
And you say he's angry. I mean, they are pushing back, Trump's pushing back on the idea that his was a grim speech or that he was angry. They're saying he was strong and he was telling it like it is.
Well, Donald Trump is the one who has described contemporary America as a hellhole. That's a quote. And when you describe America as a place where people are afraid to leave their houses, and it's fraught by poverty and terrorism, I think most Americans think we have a wonderful country with serious problems. And I don't think they think it's a hellhole.
And what does the Clinton camp, what did they make of the Republican convention? Do they think that he made any gains or got any bounce?
Well, they see a lot in there they think they can capitalize on. The darkness, in their view, of the Trump message, the ways in which Trump seemed to be attacking American institutions and America's presence in the world. Democrats think they can turn on its head and say, hey, wait a minute, we're not failing. We're not a failed state. That's one message. There is concern within Hillary Clinton land that Trump is resonating on a couple of points. The law and order and security issues primarily, that he's touching something there that is national security, but also really gets at a number of other areas of unease, social unease, economic unease, fears about safety.
And what about the idea, every election in a sense is a change election. Trump very much was arguing he's changed versus Hillary Clinton status quo. He's with the people against the elite.
That is going to be a powerful argument for Trump, just because this would be the third Democratic administration in a row, and it's been Hillary Clinton's bet that it is far better to wrap herself in Barack Obama than to run away from him. So in a way, Democrats think that that's good for them, but it also obviously opens the door for Trump to make the accurate claim that she's basically running for a third term, that she's trying to continue the current status quo, and if you don't like the status quo, then he's the change.
Brit?
The last third-term election we had was in 1988, and one remembers Ronald Reagan at the Democratic Convention in New Orleans, Republican Convention in New Orleans that year, saying, "We are the change." Some people, including David Broder of the Washington Post, said he thought that was the moment when he knew this election was going to go to the Republicans, because it rang true. And of course, he was also saying, in effect, that things are going well. They were. Things in the public's mind at this stage are not going so well. So as the Democrats seek to portray this as a good idea to elect a Democrat for the third time, they have to be careful not to fail to acknowledge that a lot of people do not think things are going well and are really not looking. They're really not looking for continuity. They are looking for change. I don't think it's an easy task to defend what has been done, and yet say, I'm going to make things different and better at the same time. And if you're too rosy about it, people say, these people are out of touch. They don't understand how bad things are.
That's exactly right.
Right track, wrong track is
exactly right.
What, about 2-1?
Right. This is not 1988. This is not even 2000. There is a desire for change, but the question in front of voters that I think Hillary Clinton's going to give is change at what cost? Is it worth making this change given what it could be? And so the alternative, I may not be the best, but I'm better than the alternative. That's the message that I think you're going to see.
Amy, we got less than a minute left. The polls say that this is still a close race, and in fact has gotten closer since the FBI and James Comey's scolding of Hillary Clinton. Is it still a close race?
I think it's a close race, and I think it's going to continue to be. I'm with Joel. I'm not going to look at numbers until we get out of this convention and see what actually happens.
When the Republicans convened in 1988, Dukakis was 17 points ahead of George Herbert Walker Bush. Polls at this point are fluid.
I was just going to say, I remember that poll. It was a Newsweek poll, and it was a bit of an outlier. Bush had the upper hand, and because of the circumstances in the country, not so good today.
All right. Thank you, panel. See you next Sunday.